Stress can absolutely do that. Like they look skinny or they look fit, but you until I measure labs and until I get a busy brain test score, like I said, my clinic here used to be filled with elite athletes and executives that looking at them and listening to their gym routine and their diets, they were doing everything right, but they were living under chronic stress. And that causes inflammation in the brain and disrupts hormones and other markers of inflammation that we need to dig a little deeper beyond just exercise and nutrition.
Welcome to another episode of the Matter Over Mind Experience. I'm your host, Master Trainer, and Weight Management Expert, Narado Zico Powell. And today I have for you the wonderful Dr. Romy Mushtaq, board certified physician, bringing together two decades of leadership in neurology, integrative medicine, and mindfulness. So by saying those three things, we have a whole lot of powerful things to talk about today. Some of the topics, the trend of glorifying stress. And we know stress is a silent killer. And we need to know how to not just to first identify it, but also how to address it. And in your weight management journey, in your overall health, in your longevity, if you don't address stress, I don't care how perfect your diet is. If you don't address stress, you're behind the eight ball. Habits that impact productivity. That's another thing too, right? Because stress, we can be stressed when we feel like we need to be productive. But if you know how to be productive, that can help to deal with your stress as well. And we're going to talk about tips to really to deal with a busy brain. Apologize for the little hang up there, everybody. I'm saying I have a long day. But tips on how to deal with a busy brain. We're going to talk about that as well. So we have a lot of good stuff to unpack today. So with that being said, before I move forward, and I always forget this, everyone, the Zico recommendation page is now live. So I'm going to make sure that the link to Zico recommendation page is in the description of the podcast. And that's important because people ask me a lot, what supplements do you take? What things do you do? So one thing that I take and that I recommend, I put on the Zico recommendation page. So the link is going to be in the description of the podcast. You can click on there. And not only that, but of course, your boy is nice. I'm going to make sure you have some discounts on some wonderful products as well. So I'll be remiss, which apparently I'm remiss because I always forget to mention it, but I remember to mention it this time. Now, enough of me talking. Dr. Romy, welcome to the show.
Hey, Zico. It's great to be here with you and your entire audience. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here, my friend. Thank you for being here. And let's roll into this puppy because, I just like to jump into the deep end, right?
Please, let's go. Yes.
Yeah, let's see if I can swim. If I can't swim, then I'm just going to get some floaties and paddle my way back. So let's talk about what inspired your transition. Because you started in traditional medicine, right? But you kind of moved into more of a stress management role. So what really inspired that transition?
Yeah, Zico, you know what? We were talking before the podcast went live. We both have aunties in common. And I was raised here in the United States with this one success mantra from my dad. I have one daughter and you will become a doctor. And then my aunties worked really, really hard. Like, oh, Romy has to grow up and become a doctor. And oh my God, she has such a big mouth. We hope one day she'll get married. And that was it, right? And I was loved upon and nurtured, and I entered neurology at a time where less than 5% of the brain doctors in America were women. And I loved my job, but Zico, I ain't gonna lie. All the amazing things you talk about, I didn't have time to go to the gym and work out or eat clean. I was working 120-hour work weeks as a doctor and a researcher and not sleeping, all the things you and I now talk about, chronically sleep deprived and under chronic stress, and the stress nearly killed me. And I should have known better. I'm a doctor. And at the age of 34, 35, I ended up in life-saving surgery. And I remember sitting there in the hospital after they operated on me thinking, oh my God, nothing I learned in medical school is going to help me now. Like, what do I do? Back then, Zico, we didn't have terms like mental health crisis, burnout that we talk about a lot today. And I started this global journey of what I thought was getting help and learning from global healers and the wisdom of all of our cultures. And somewhere along the way, I realized oh my God, There's a different way to treat brain and mental health and help high performing executives and athletes with their peak performance. And that's where I am. If people see the TED Talk, they know I have achalasia and I've been talking all day and the saliva is pooling. So pardon me. Yeah, no.
So, I was thinking about that because you're so right. Even in the fitness industry, we have a very bad culture, when a lot of times we don't address the body as a whole. We don't address everything as a whole. And when someone says, and my show is primarily weight management focus. So
Oh, yeah.
when someone wants
Yeah.
to lose weight, that in itself is a stressor, especially if you're not
Hmm.
happy with how you look, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
you go in and then you go in and you try to work as hard as you can and burn as
Poof.
many calories while you're cutting calories at the same time, living your regular life and doing everything else
Hmm.
that you're doing. And then you realize it really becomes more of an issue. That's why we stop a lot of times, even if we've gotten some
Yeah.
results, because it's just too challenging. It's not fun to continue. But when you identify the stress and identify what's happening, then at that point, you're able to say, okay, I
Hmm.
identified, maybe I need to change my approach. Or maybe, I need to fire my trainer and get somebody, AKA Zico, who understands the full body and knows how to
Hey.
give you what you actually
Yes,
need
Zico.
without stressing you out and
Yeah.
getting you your results and walking you through that path. And with that leads me, roll me to the next kind of question out my mind, because we're talking about identifying stress, right?
Hmm.
So, in your opinion, as a doctor, like how important is that?
It's key, Zico. You just said it right. It's you are a weight management and fitness high level podcast. And when I was still seeing patients one to one here in Orlando at the Center for Natural and Integrative Medicine, I was taking care of athletes, peak performing executives who were quote doing everything right, eating clean, had a personal trainer, were marathon runners, whatever was, and they still had a plateau in their athletic performance, or they were having difficulty losing weight, doing everything right. And then they would come to me because really it starts in the brain. And when you're on a weight loss journey, you can be so busy and obsessing over your macros or what you're eating and what time and your strength training versus cardio. And I'm here to tell you, it all starts in your brain, and even more than just mindset. And this has been an area that I've been researching. So you have to know, listen, in today's world, let's be real. Everybody's walking around going, yeah, Zico, Auntie Dr. Romy, I'm stressed, you're stressed, my mama's stressed, my auntie's stressed. Who is in stress? But I want you to measure it, just like you would measure the reps you're doing with the weights and know the number of how much you're lifting or what your resistance is. You need to know what your brain stress score is. And so we have a free busy brain test that actually measures your stress levels and gives you a score and a protocol according to that. And why is that important? Because in simple terms, and you'll read in chapter 1 of the Busy Brain Cure book, is your busy brain center is like an airport traffic control tower. And when we're under chronic stress, because listen, life happens, right? You're working hard, you got to pay the mortgage, you can't lose weight, like whatever's going on in your relationship, it's going to affect the stress systems in your brain, specifically your limbic system and hypothalamus. Not only is your sleep wake cycle affected with that hypothalamus or your circadian rhythm, so is your metabolism. Your ability to effectively metabolize your hormones that are responsible for metabolism and for building muscle and for hunger. So you could be, quote, doing all the right things that you hear about on Zico, and you're like, I'm not getting results. What's up, Zico, my man? And it's not Zico, it's your brain.
Well, honestly, if they're doing all the right things according to Zico, they will get the results because I do address stress and the other factors.
Exactly. There you
Just,
go.
just to
There
let
you go.
everybody
Right.
know, your
Yeah.
boy don't
Just to
leave you
let everybody
hanging.
know.
Your boy don't
Yeah.
leave you hanging.
Yeah. And I know, no, I didn't mean it that way, but we see a lot of people, and what we're talking about is a next level of stress, Zico, right? That chronic stress and burnout where the people are. And I think I'm here to share, on top of the great advice you give on stress, the latest cutting edge research that I've been doing for the last few years and sharing in corporate America. And now it's coming out in the book and we're sharing it with the public to help people get the results and peak performance that they want.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. My audience know that I'm pretty silly by this point, so I don't know how they put up with me half the time. But I want to keep on topic and stress because you do have a lot to share, even things that I myself don't know. But I have a first question because I didn't get a copy of your book, so I'm assuming it
We will
hasn't
send
come
it
out
to
yet.
you.
Okay, so your book is out. Okay, so your book is out. Where can
You
they
know,
locate get a copy of your
yes.
book?
So first of all, Auntie's going to apologize here that it wasn't good manners of my PR agency. I think there was a link that will send you a galley copy of the book. Yes. So the book one, my God, please, this is like bad manners on my part. Like I'm going to make sure you get an early release of the book. And by the time this episode is released, we're recording it early. The book will be out globally. It comes out January 9th by HarperCollins in anywhere globally you buy books. So Amazon, hardcover, Target, Barnes and Nobles, airport stores, bookstores, as well as Kindle and audiobooks. So it's all there, which is, it goes over what a busy brain is. It tells you how to take the test, and then it goes through the simple 8-week protocol on how to rewire your brain and calm down the neuroinflammation so you can reach that peak performance.
Love it. And I actually, now that you said, I do remember talking to your PR firm, and they said that the book wasn't out yet. So that's why I actually didn't get a copy of it.
Yeah.
So I won't blame them. This is a pretty good firm. I work with them a lot.
Yeah.
Listen, I
Awesome.
don't want them
Yeah.
to stop sending me some
Yeah.
of these wonderful guests like Dr. Romy. We don't want them to stop, right? We don't want them
Thank
to stop.
you. Yeah.
But you do have some wonderful information. I've obviously looked over your profile. We've had so many wonderful discussions as well. And continuing as we're talking about stress, because the book is going to break down a lot, as you said, as far as identifying how to take the test, how to deal with it, so on and so forth. But as for the sake of my audience, let's talk about glorifying stress. Because when we say that, what do you really mean by that, and how do we address that?
Yeah. Glorifying stress comes in two ways. We think that in order to get your optimal physical fitness, you have to do it to the point you're stressing out your body and your schedule so that maybe you're giving up sleep, as an example. Or at work. Listen, I deal with success-driven professionals just like you do, Zico. And this attitude that I can't succeed and achieve my life or my work goals without stressing yourself out. I want us all to stop wearing stress as a badge of honor or as a sad statistic, right? Like, oh, who isn't burnt out? I am. And instead say, what can I do to be a high achieving professional or reach my personal goals in life without stressing myself out, right? Because listen, I'm not ashamed that I want success in my business and my personal life. And I know, Zico, you aren't either, but we can do it without sacrificing our mental, brain, and physical health.
So what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm definitely not the expert here. So what I'm hearing is we should stop basically making stress a center for our life where we focus on it and kind of try to say, we try to make it seem like either it's a good thing where we're like, oh, I need to stress myself out to accomplish my goals, but at the same time, not also like making stress knock us over the head consistently.
Yes.
We start a new job.
And if you're not sure, if you're not sure, this is the idea. You wake up and you can't get going without a large amount of caffeine or an energy drink in the morning, right? That's a sign that you're living on stress hormones. And you may tell Zico and I it was just 1 cup of coffee, but it was really several energy drinks, or you got the doctor to give you Ritalin or Adderall. And then you're at work and you're low-key anxious all day, so you keep chugging caffeine. And you're having a hard time sticking to your nutrition plan that Zico has laid out for you. That's a sign that you're having hunger or blood glucose crashes or highs. That's stress. It's not that you're eating anything wrong. You were following the nutrition plan that was laid out for you. That's the brain mechanisms that are plummeting your blood sugar. And then you're like, okay, I heard Zico. I heard Dr. Auntie Romy. I'm going to calm down and I'm going to go sleep tonight. And then you're like, I go home and I can't take the edge off. So let me have a glass of wine or 3 or this prescription sleeping pill. And that's then I know your brain and body are surviving on stress hormones, and you're needing stimulation all day and chemicals all day, and then chemicals to calm you down or sedatives at night. That's how I know that you're functioning on stress. Does that help a little bit?
That helps 100%. I think that clarifies it for me and definitely for my audience, because I like the fact you gave us the actual signs of how do you know that you are actually running on stress, right? And the caffeine is a big one. And a lot of people don't realize is that, Dr. Romy, you're a doctor. reminder that, you can use caffeine properly. Caffeine is not the evil. It's
Yes.
kind of like guns don't kill
Yes.
people. It's stupid people with guns kill people. You know what I mean? Like, like caffeine is not the problem,
Yes.
it's how we
Yes.
use it. I drink tea, for example. Tea
Yes.
has caffeine, but I'm not
Yeah.
loading myself up with
Right.
300 milligrams a day, kind of thing.
Yeah, you don't need it to survive or show up for this podcast interview. And that's the key. There are a lot of people that can't get going in the morning without it. And what kind of tea do you like to drink?
I drink a wide variety. For my mornings, I'm a black tea, green tea, mostly kind of guy.
Yeah.
During my
Yeah.
longer fast days, I might do some hibiscus tea or some surasy because it's a bit more
Nice.
bitter and it's has like a probiotic
Yeah.
effect. So it just depends on
Ah.
it just
See,
depends on what I'm doing.
I'm learning something from you.
Yeah, so
Yeah, we were talking before the podcast that we both have Indian aunties in our heritage, and so I didn't know if you were going to say a good cup of chai made with like milk, because that's one of mine. But these days I'm loving matcha, and I make matcha lattes at
that's a good
home with
one.
oat milk. So a pure, organic, high grade Japanese matcha, and then I use oat milk to sweeten it up a little bit and froth it, and that's been great caffeine, but it has the chemicals in it that like are not creating that crash that I get with black coffee.
And everyone, just FYI, I have an episode on the show where I interviewed Jenny Shea, and she is an expert on tea. And we broke the whole thing
I can't
down
wait to
like
hear
that. I
it.
think that was earlier this year, and she
Yay!
broke down different types of teas. She even
Yeah.
has a book that you can purchase that talks about tea and the benefits. And
Oh,
for me
cool.
personally, tea has been a big help because I'm naturally an asthmatic, and if my audience knows, I reverse my asthma by healing my gut.
Mm.
And tea, because
Yeah.
antioxidant benefits,
Yes.
was key in me healing
Yeah.
my gut. So, but
That is
with that being
amazing.
said, though,
Yeah.
like talking about the whole thing is that we have to just be careful what we ingest, and we also got to realize too
Mhm.
that when it comes to to our body weight, you can have all the diet and eat all the right things and do all the right things that you think you're doing, but if you're stressed, your body will hold on to body fat. And because what happens is when you're
Yes.
stressed, your body
Preach.
doesn't know if you're running from a lion or if you're just having a
Hmm.
bad day. And remember, our body raises cortisol when we get stressed. Remember that with a stress response, a lot of times our body holds on to energy because it needs it for the future instead of releasing it. So, we just got to be very mindful, very careful. Stress in Jamaica, I don't know if you ever heard this. In Jamaica, and I might have to correct my brother one time because he said, I'll sleep when I die. And because he's working so hard, he's doing so many jobs. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, if that's the
God
case, you're
bless
probably
him.
gonna die quicker than you were planning to, because if you don't get quality sleep, that leads to
Absolutely.
poor stress as well. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
And that's not just in Jamaica, Zico. That's here. A lot of the industries that I work with, they say the same thing. And in tech, as an example, is, sleep is for the weak. And that's something I've been on a crusade that, sleep is the new status symbol of successful professionals. So yeah, it's not just your brother and it's not just people in Jamaica. It seems like it's become this global mindset.
Which is what you call glorifying stress, right? Because like that, in that way, saying, "Hey, I'll
Mhm.
sleep when I die," you're literally glorifying the stress
Mhm.
instead of handling and dealing with it,
Yeah.
right? Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just want to say one more thing too, because while we're on the topic of stress, because as we go about, we try to make changes in our lives. We just gotta remember that there's so many ways to get the results that we're looking for in business and in our physical life
Hmm.
without having to necessarily stress ourselves out. If
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
one of the big problems that leads with stress that I've seen with clients quite often is the all or nothing mentality. And what I'm saying by that is they're
Hmm.
like either they're good or they're bad. And if
Mm.
they're bad, they beat themselves over the head.
Yeah.
But if they're good, they feel like they gotta
Yeah.
stress themselves out and keep going. So just remember
Yeah.
that
And that's that stress success
that's that
cycle. God,
glorifying
you said
stress you're
it so
talking about,
well.
right? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and one
Yeah.
thing I can say that's key that can help you even with your stress as well, as we're talking about sleep, because I have an entire article on sleep that you guys can read, but I want to say this one thing that's been very beneficial for me with lowering my stress levels, changing my alarm. I wake up every day around 5:30 to 6, but I do set an alarm just in case. But my alarm is soft and it's pleasant, and I wake up feeling like I'm in
Mm.
heaven. When you wake up to
Hmm.
that every morning,
Ooh,
that
your stress
hard jerk,
hormones are just like,
exactly,
ooh.
that hard jerk immediately
Yeah.
raises your body's cortisol and immediately stresses you out. They have done research to show that many Americans, this was done on Americans, I know it happens all over the world, but many Americans experience at least 5 to 6 stressors within the first hour of them waking up,
Hmm.
right? So,
Yeah. Is that alarm, or then people pick up their phone and they look at their calendar, they look at their emails, they look at their text messages, they look at their news headlines. Like, there's dozens of things stressing out. You know what we actually recommend is there are special alarm clocks that are made for your circadian rhythm, where 30 minutes before your wake up time, you get the light that's stimulating sunlight coming into your room, and it just naturally wakes you up, so that, and then to your point, a pleasant sound. And there's actually alarm clocks that are like that. You were talking, Zico, about the cortisol, which is, I'm so glad that you're bringing in brain science and the chemistries. One thing that I'll add into the research is, we know a lot of research has been done on the acute stress response. So you're running away from a lion, you have a work deadline. My research is focused on what happens when you're chronically stressed out. It's much deeper than just the cortisol response, right? What's really happening is the cortisol response happened in a part of your brain that's the autonomic nervous system and your limbic system, and then something else happens. You didn't come back to a ground set or zero like Zico always teaches you. Instead, so many things are happening in life, and you've been chronically stressed out for weeks, for months, and you have these busy brain symptoms that I was just talking about. What actually happens is an additional mechanism of inflammation, neuroinflammation, where there's elevation of something known as interleukins in your brain, affecting your hypothalamus, the SCN nucleus, which is the circadian rhythm, the biological clock for everything that I was talking about earlier. And that inflammation will affect your sleep-wake cycle, all the hormones, your metabolism, your weight regulation, your breathing, your immune system, all of that. And that's the mechanism that I discuss in the Busy Brain Cure that can now lead to chronic diseases and chronic illnesses that could actually kill you. And that's kind of like that next level of stress that people are operating at. And at this point, what happens, Zico, two things in their fitness is they followed a clean eating plan. I'm just going to pick Whole30 as an example. They're actually gaining weight, or they're doing intermittent fasting, and the blood sugar crashes are so bad that they're having severe mood swings or ready to drop out from hypoglycemia. Or you do like a high intensity interval training class that you normally could handle, and all of a sudden you see belly bloating or your blood sugar drops, and you're like, wait a minute, I used to feel so good from this HIIT class. Like, what happened? That's a sign that your brain has crossed over into busy brain and chronic stress, and now it's impacting everything else in your body.
I have a question on that. Because
Mm-hmm.
often this has happened to me before, where I feel like now that you're explaining that, I know I've experienced busy brain level stress or chronic
Yeah.
stress, and then
Yeah. We all have.
then
Yeah.
sometimes when I'm talking to someone, when I'm in that mindset and I'm talking to someone, I kind of like snap kind of easier, or I don't respond as well.
Mm.
Does that have anything to do with it?
It can for some people, right? And that's incredible self-awareness, Zico, that you have, that I get irritable and my conversations may become really shorter. I snap at people. Other people get really quiet and they don't respond at all, right? Everybody is a little different and there's no judgment. The busy brain symptoms are specifically medically these three things: that you're under chronic stress, so that you have adult onset attention deficit disorder, or ADD or ADHD. You're having anxiety all day long, and then you have insomnia, difficulty falling and staying asleep, and then you have the perfectionist tendencies. That's specifically the busy brain of what we get into. And then, yes, this can negatively impact your athletic performance, your ability to lose weight. So that's kind of where I come in, is your listeners are like, I did everything Zico's telling me and something is still wrong. That's why Zico brought me here, because you didn't do anything wrong. It's just there's a particular pattern of neuroinflammation in your brain, and we need to get to the root cause of that and heal that.
100%. And I love and you're talking about you talk about I was talking about acute stress, as you said, but your research goes beyond
Mm-hmm.
that and goes to the chronic stress,
Go, yeah,
which is what
yeah,
it's a different level necessarily. Like you kind of crossed over, and
yes,
it's more impactful
completely
because
different
it's long
level.
lasting, right?
Yeah.
It's not just in the
Exactly.
moment.
Yeah, like I gave the example, I was under chronic stress for all these years in medical school, internship, residency, 2 fellowships, when I started my job, it was like a 14-year period that I was chronically sleep deprived, Zico, right? Or you think of someone that has a newborn baby and maybe for a year or two, they have disturbed sleep, or somebody that's like, has a new boss at work and someone got fired and they're doing the job of 3 people and now it's 6 or 8 months in, right? So these are people that are living months or years in a really challenging situation.
Awesome. No, that's really, really good because I like that you not only are you identifying it, which is what we talk about in the beginning, but you're driving it home from our audience about what's going on in your brain, how
Yeah.
is it impacting your entire
Yeah.
life, the decision that you make
Hmm.
every day, how you talk to people, how your longevity, your health. I mean, you go to the gym because you're trying to work
Hmm.
out and lose all this weight, but then you're chronically stressed. So there are people who
Yeah.
I've had people say to me, and this is a key thing because I always bring up stress when this happens. Because people have said, I've seen this
Yeah.
guy or this woman, she's in tremendous shape, but she died when she was 35 years old. And then
Yes.
stress
Yes.
can be that
And
too.
that's the
Right.
stress. The stress can absolutely do that. Like they look skinny or they look fit, but you until I measure labs and until I get a busy brain test score, like I said, my clinic here used to be filled with elite athletes and executives that looking at them and listening to their gym routine and their diets, they were doing everything right, but they were living under chronic stress. And that causes inflammation in the brain and disrupts hormones and other markers of inflammation that we need to dig a little deeper beyond just exercise and nutrition.
100%. And with that being said, I
Yeah.
actually, audience, I'm gonna do this. I had an ad for this show, but I'm gonna bypass that because I want to continue this discussion. It's extremely important, and I think the things that she's talking about can really save your. No, I don't think. I know they can really save your life. So
Yeah.
we're gonna dig a little bit deeper in stuff that we're talking about here because you hit the you talk about some things that I've talked with people many times, and you mentioned a couple of
Hmm.
things that I want to bring up, and you can add your expertise onto it. But it's with intermittent fasting, right, or intermittent fasting,
Yeah.
right? So we got to
Hmm.
be careful of that because I've known a lot of people who've never fasted before said, you know what, I need to lose weight, so I'm just gonna go on OMAD or one of these crazy weight loss diets or intermittent fasting. I'm gonna eat once a day. That is such a stressor for your body, especially, and this is the key thing, especially if you're not a natural fat burner. And if you're overweight, you are not a fat burner. You're going to be a carb burner for the most part. So if your body doesn't have enough enzymes to break down fat appropriately, which is one of the reasons why you're overweight, then you start to fast, and your blood sugar drops. Right, your body may use some of the stored glycogen it has if it has any, but then it's struggling to burn fat because it doesn't have enough lipase. You get stressed. You get what they call hangry, and when you get hangry, do not get a Snickers unless you need to pick up your blood sugar. Sometimes that happens, right? I have clients that are type 2 diabetic, and like I got to get a cookie, I get my blood sugar back up. So that happens,
Yeah.
right? But my point is that like be very careful with these like all or nothing diets. Now I'm not saying oh man is bad. I once a week I fast for 22 to 24 hours, right? And I do that once a week. But then
But Zico, you've primed your body and
exactly.
your brain to be in that place. You didn't just wake up in that all or nothing place one day, or your clients that are like extremely overweight and chronically stressed, and they're like, I'm going to start today and fast for 22
Exactly.
hours. You just can't do
I want
that.
to add to that because I had a friend the other day, and this is where I'm a little bit passive sometimes where I shouldn't be. But she messaged me and she texted me and said, hey, this weekend I'm going to fast for 2 days. She's never had a long fast before. I should have said, hey, I don't think that's a good idea, but I didn't. Lo and
Mm.
behold, the late that day in the middle of her fast, she tell me she has a headache, she doesn't feel good. And in the back of my mind, I knew
Mm.
those things were gonna happen. And it was my fault because I didn't say anything, which I should have. And then she texts me the next day after she kind of ate, kind of get herself back up, and she's like, I'm never gonna fast again. I said, no, 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 no. Not that you should never fast again, but you have to train your body. And that's what I should have told her
Yeah.
before she
Yeah.
experienced it. Because then
Yeah.
because at this point she's thinking fasting
Yeah.
is the issue when the issue is not fasting. So
Mm.
again, just be very careful
Yeah.
with these diets. They can be very, very beneficial. They can
Yeah.
be very helpful, but you have to, if you're doing it to the point that you're putting your body under stress, which can lead to that busy brain stress
Hmm.
that you're telling about, you're really shortening your life in
Well,
the long
or you have a busy brain and you have neuroinflammation and you're going to start fasting. It's not
You're adding
ideal,
to it,
right? And
right?
here's one thing I want to start, Zico, and I want to backtrack because Fasting has become so trendy, and I really want to honor the global healing community and know that fasting has been around as long as humanity, that many of the major religions of the world have incorporated fasting as a part of spirituality. And that's where all the research studies have come from that have made it so trendy in the West. So, one, I want to honor all the ancient religions and cultures and tribes that have had fasting as a part of spirituality. I think that's really important to do to honor my ancestors as an example. Number two, it's fasting. It's kind of like if you're watching the video of Zico and I, not just listening to the audio. I have a sleeveless top on. He's got a sweatshirt on. We have two different types of clothing that were made for a woman's body and a man's body. Now, he could try to put on my top. It's going to look funny on him. And I could put on his sweatshirt, but it wouldn't fit as well as it does on him. Fasting is the same way. There are different protocols if you're gender assigned female at birth or male at birth that are really important. And for women, especially as a female doctor in integrative medicine, there are different protocols for intermittent fasting that we start you on. Number one, if you have a busy brain or neuroinflammation, we need to do a few things first before you fast. But the other thing is we need to know where in your hormonal cycle you are. Do you have regular menstrual periods? Do you have PCOS? Are you premenopause? Are you postmenopause? The intermittent fasting schedules are completely different. And what we recommend, Zico, I see this a lot when people tell me they're going to fast as a chief wellness officer or on the protocol. Do you deal with this too? Is they're making a busy brain or chronic stress worse because they think fasting is not about eating. Let's say, the most common protocol is the 16-8 protocol. So for 16 hours, they're not eating, but 8 hours, anything gives. I'm going to go get fast food. I'm going to go have a cocktail. I'm going to a holiday party. I'm going to eat the cookies and cake because I'm in my 8-hour window. Oh my God. I'm dealing with that a lot. How about you?
I don't see it as much because usually and anybody's going to fast under my protocol, I'm very strict with them. And just like you said, though, I also walk them through how they should fast based on if they're male or female, because I have a time restraint on male versus female because men are naturally better fat burners. But anyway, to answer your question, I don't see this now for my friends or maybe stuff like that. I may see it from time to time. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that I really want to bring that up because there may be some people that are doing that or they're coming to you ready to. The second thing is you need to know in my BrainSHIFT protocol to heal the busy brain cure, we actually don't recommend intermittent fasting. We don't put anybody on any diet. Let's be real. Diet is a 4-letter curse word when you have a busy brain and in corporate cultures. My job as an integrative medicine doctor was to study all the nutrition protocols that are out there and give people the nutrition protocol that is right for their health, but also right for their spirituality, right? I live in a world of mindfulness where I want the vegans, the intermittent fasters, the paleos, the carb lovers, the chocoholics, and the confused people to all be able to sit down and have a meal at one table together and feel like they belong and they're loved. Like, is that an auntie wish or not? But like, that's who I am, right? And I know, and you're nodding your head up and down because you were raised by elders who were the same way. Everybody is welcome to the table, right?
With that being said, I have something to add on to that because I go to church on the 7th-day Sabbath, right? And that's the day that I fast, right? So, so when I have my meal right before or maybe at the beginning of the Sabbath, I don't eat until either the close of the Sabbath or almost to the close Sabbath the next day. But that's important to understand. Okay, that's my once a week, 22 to 24-hour fast. But it's purposeful because it's on the Sabbath where I don't work. I'm in church. I'm with friends, significant others, so on and so forth. And I'm having a good time. And that's why when the research is done, and this is when research gets dangerous, and tell me if you think I'm wrong. But by the way, I'm never wrong. But this is
I'm gonna ask your girlfriend.
I know, right?
Don't get Auntie Romy started, boy.
I just set myself up for that one. But what's my point here? I forgot what I was talking about. Yeah, so
you were talking about spirituality and the research.
Yes. So when the research is done a lot on spirituality, they don't realize that they're not fasting and doing other things. They're usually fasting and they're in a level of spirituality. They're praying, they're meditating, Like even even within Indian and other cultures where they have certain festivals throughout the year where they're supposed to fast for certain holidays.
Mhm.
During those fasting periods, there's supposed to be level of spirituality and kind of raising their
Yeah,
levels of spirituality. So those
yeah,
that's important versus
absolutely.
if you already have a
It
busy
is.
brain and then you're fasting on top of
Yes.
that, adding the stress, and then you're working and doing the other things,
Yeah.
you're not mimicking the same
Yeah.
fast that the research is done on.
Agreed. Agreed. That is so important. It's bringing that mind body spirit connection all in. So what the nutrition protocol that we actually are doing with the neuroinflammation is we're trying to stabilize the brain, not the body, the brain's reaction to glucose and insulin levels. And this is really important for people to understand is people can often think sugar and glucose and insulin and think pancreas and diabetes type 2. But we know that insulin and sugar sensitivity is a completely separate pathology in the brain, and that will create worse busy brain symptoms, the adult onset ADD, the I need caffeine to keep going. So we actually don't put people on a diet. I want people to once or twice a week have comfort food. We don't call it a cheat meal. Like comfort food are the foods that are tied to your religious festivals, your ancestry, a celebration, a family meal. We actually just start very simple with this biohack that I researched, which was you choose one thing, Zico, a high glycemic sugar or caffeine, not both, within an hour of each other. So people can have slow carbs like a low glycemic food like sweet potato, brown rice, quinoa. But if you're going to have white sugar, white rice, white potato, white bread, white flour, okay, then no caffeine for an hour before or after that, right? And because the two together compounded will fuel neuroinflammation and then destroy the rest of your body's health. And it's something so simple and people do it. And now it's starting, they've already reset their circadian rhythm by the sleep challenge and everything we put people through, and they're on the right supplements. So by the time they get to week 5 and do this, the sugar cravings have stopped and their belly bloating is going down because the brain bloating is going down, then the belly bloating is going down. So now all of a sudden we're priming the brain. And then in week 6, we add 1 to 2 servings of healthy fat at every meal. I keep it that simple, right? People are busy. And so I want to give them a biohack that's easy to do if you're traveling, if you're going to work, if you're a busy parent. You just do these things. And then, honestly, if you're going to join Zico's program and do intermittent fasting as a part of it, give it this 8-week to cure your busy brain and the negative impact of chronic stress. Now you've primed your brain and your body and your hormones to now start a proper, fasting protocol if you want to. Most people can just maintain on this and do absolutely well.
So and that's what you do with actual clients, right? When you after you test them,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah. So this is the 8-week protocol, and we had 1,000 executives go through this. So 1,000 people whose busy brain score was above a 30. They had chronic stress, Zico. They were burned out. They had physical symptoms that were related to stress, whether it was joint pain, immune health issues, hormones are off, all those things that we talk about in the book. And they do this for 8 weeks and then they're feeling better and their busy brain score improves, their labs start to normalize, and they're feeling more energized during the day. And why people like it is because I didn't put you on a diet.
Right. Which is the key word. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't put you on a diet because I
Yes.
just by the time this episode comes out, it's gonna be maybe a month or so behind. But today, as I'm recording, the episode released with when we were talking about most weight loss or like fitness programs out there, they focus on diet and working out, diet and working out, and it doesn't work for
Mm-hmm.
most people. And the things that you are
Mm-hmm.
talking about right now, and the things that you know, and the things that you worked on with clients, is the main reason why it doesn't work for so many people. So again, that's how we have to be.
Mm.
We cannot play with stress. We cannot. There's research that's done on
Yeah.
even like the Seventh-day Adventist Church or just churches in general, and
Mm-hmm.
realize that people who are connected to religion tend to live longer because they usually,
Mm.
when you're connected to religion and then you're connected to a higher being, it's easier for you to release stress.
Mm.
right? Because you think the
Yeah.
rest goes
Or
to the
to some spiritual practice, or even, there's a lot of people that may not identify with the religion, because I speak to a diverse global audience. So any religion that is true, or any spiritual path, or any rituals you have. So even if you say, I believe in the universe, or my community is my yoga community, or whatever that is community, that is spirituality, your connection to one, and a source that is bigger
bigger than
than
you.
you,
And
and
small
yeah.
groups as
Hmm.
well. Like we realize that connection with others, with
Hmm.
small groups. I'm going to get into like a very important part. We're going to talk about things that you can do to deal with a busy brain and release that chronic stress. But before we do that, I want to talk a bit about what I do. Right. So number one,
Yeah, tell me. I'd love to hear.
the alarm. That's the most important thing for me because if I wake up to a
Mm-hmm.
harsh alarm, my day is already crap. So that's the
Mm-hmm.
first thing that I deal with. The next thing is that when I wake up, I pray. It's my first thing every morning, right? I pray. I connect to my higher being. Again, that's very important for me. And I'm not trying to push it on anybody. I'm saying for me personally, that's important, and that makes my day so
Mm-hmm.
much better. But some other things that
Mm-hmm.
I say everybody can implement. Before I eat, I read a chapter of or so of the Bible, or if I'm reading before I eat, because it'll calm me down. But if you don't want to read the Bible, you can do breath work. You can do a little bit of meditation. You want to put yourself in that rest and digestive state
Mm-hmm.
before you eat, or not even just before
Yes.
eat, but as
Yeah.
often as you can. When you feel like you're busy, I take a second and I pray. You can just take a second, take some good diaphragmatic breaths, and calm yourself down and put yourself in that state. Behind me, everybody knows what they see. Your boy can play. Your boy can play. I love playing my guitar,
Yes.
and
Yes. I
and
saw.
that's one of the things
Yeah.
I do as well. When I go outside. I live in Florida, so Dr. Romy here lives practically down the street from me. So
Yeah.
like I go outside, I sit by the dam
Yeah.
where the animals
I
are, and
love
I play
that.
my guitar. Right now, I'm practicing Christmas music, so I sit down. I'm
Lovely.
unplug. So those are some of the things you could do. Just unplug from the world. If you're a musician, you can play some music. If you're not a musician, you can listen to music. You can take
Yeah.
take deep breaths, relax, connect with nature, connect with animals. There's a reason why I sit on the
Mm-hmm.
ground outside. Grounding mats are great. I have a grounding mat. I have red light therapy bulb,
I'm a big fan. Yeah.
but it's never going to be better than nature. So, that's
Mm-hmm.
only what as you can use it as needed, but your focus should be getting on the ground, connecting with nature, connecting with earth. There's research on that. I'm not just
Mm-hmm.
saying a bunch of stuff that's going to sound heebie-jeebie. That's why we have all these grounding products now, because the
Mm-hmm.
benefit for your health and lowering stress, right? So, there's
Mm-hmm.
so many little nuggets
So
that you
you've
can
just
do.
given a lot of great tips. Thank you, Zico. And I co-sign on all of them. And can I tell you the reality of the world I live in? And I bet even some of the clients, as they start with you before they get into your protocols, is when you're living under chronic stress, the busy brain will fool you when you wake up to think, I don't have time to pray and meditate or go work out or be out in nature or eat my breakfast slowly. They've already looked at their phone. They're checking emails. They're responding to emails in their pajamas in their bed while they're rushing to the bathroom to get ready for the day or get school children out for school, right? So I really want to honor that there's something going on it's not you if you can't do those things. What I'm hearing, and I want to summarize for people, is whether you have 10 minutes in the morning or you have 2 hours, is to have a ritual that does not involve a digital device
Yes.
is the key, right? And that is calming of your senses to the best of your ability. And everyone has 10 minutes in the morning, because I think, Zico, of how many clients I serve globally who have small children and have to wake up and get them out the door to school while they're trying to get to work, right? So, I want to be mindful of everyone. And everything you said is great. I have the same ritual that, we talked about the kind of alarm clock I wake up to, but can I tell you what's so beautiful is I have a senior dog, Raja, and I always say that, like, he is one of the angels in the house and connected to heaven. Is he naturally, even with the time change, he wakes up first, and when I wake up without an alarm clock about 45 minutes prior to sunrise. So that gives me the chance to get up and get him out the door. That's our first thing. I have to be honest, he's a senior dog, he can't wait anymore. And then when I come back in, I start my morning rituals brush my teeth and all those things. And then I have the chance to pray too. But what I want people to know is, I'm a busy woman running a company, a chief wellness officer. I'm often traveling. I schedule my sleep and I schedule that morning ritual time, whether I'm home with my dog or not, first, and then everything else in my business day goes around it. And I think, Zico, that's what I'm hearing from you too, right? That you purposely structure your day so you have your time to do those things in the morning.
100%. I mentioned it to there's a group for Lumen. I think right now, I don't remember, 26,000 people. I don't know how it is, but one of their group experts, and I talked to them about health and wellness. And, oftentimes when they ask me a question, one of the things I brought up was, their morning routine. And I told them what my morning routine was. And they said exactly what you just said. They said, it's nice that you have time to do those things. I'm like, it takes like 10 minutes. But exactly, your busy brain tricks you into thinking, hey, you don't have time to do those things.
I don't have that 10 minutes. I have to do this work email right away. My boss emailed me last night and I slept through the email. That's what chronic stress will do to you. And that's why we created this 8-week protocol, so that you wake up in the morning and you're like, I got 10 minutes. And Zico, you and I both know, right? That 10 minutes magically turns into 25. And you still have a really productive day because now you got in prayer, meditation, a cup of tea, a sunrise, like whatever you get in, right? It's pick the rituals that are calming that do not involve a digital device.
I have a question for you on top of that, because we're talking about tips to deal with a busy brain. So what about like the night before you, like your nighttime rituals before you're going to sleep? There any tips you have there that can help my audience?
Yeah. So this isn't about tips or tricks, Zico, right? I really want to be clear is there's a lot of tips and tricks out there on the internet. I'm a doctor and a researcher. I researched what micro habits were the most effective to heal chronic stress in the brain. And then we tested it on people to make sure it worked. I really want to be, so there's an 8-week protocol in the book, and all the micro habits stack upon one another. So step 1 is take the busy brain test and know your score. Step 2, we do the 7-day sleep challenge, where you already do this and I do, but maybe not a lot of people do. It's scheduling the time to go to sleep and waking up. And there's other things that are really important to do for your bedroom and your sleep. And then we recommend supplements that can calm the neuroinflammation and reset your circadian rhythm and sleep-wake cycle. So that's key. So now all of a sudden people are feeling better. Then to your point, is we did the research study in over 500 leaders at our company for digital detox. And this is really important to know, Zico, for your audience. I did this research study in a company that manages hotels that are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year. And I told the top leaders and managers of these hotels, you are going to shut off your phones and digital devices 30 to 60 minutes before bedtime. If there's an emergency at work, they'll call you. But you're not going to be emailing and texting and on social media or watching TV. And the results were astounding. In simple terms, people were sleeping better and their anxiety was doing better than had I given them Xanax, a prescription sedative or sleeping pill, right? And so week 3 is we ask people to do digital detox, but that doesn't mean not just work email or no social media. It also means the e-readers, no TV. If you're going to listen to meditation music at night or a podcast, we really ask that you keep the phone away from you, because you and I both know what happens. You put on a meditation app and then all of a sudden you get a notification and you're checking emails while you're meditating, right? So none of that. So that's step 3 in the protocol that we ask people to do. Step 4 is we tried to add meditation in because I'm a mindfulness expert, but all these years I was working with people and they had chronic stress and they're like, I can't shut down my busy brain and meditate. So we actually added sound healing and brain pause in there. So music therapy or sound healing, in your headphones to help you during the day and at night. And so these are researched micro habits that calm the neuroinflammation down, and you do it in this order that by the time you get to week 5, people's sugar cravings have stopped.
Oh, I definitely believe that. And I've always said that the research shows the connection between stress and sugar cravings. You know exactly how that goes, especially when we're talking about chronic stress. And I have a personal story on that because I had someone on the show. He was the creator of Swanwick, right? The nighttime glasses, blue light blocking glasses, and I have blue light blocking bulbs in my house. But I also had Devin Burke on the show, who's a sleep expert. And Devin Burke's mentality was he believes in blue light blockers, but he believes the issue is more how busy your brain is at night. Versus, I remember the creator of Swanic was like, well, you can wear these and do your emails and do your things that you'll fall asleep just fine. So, being the crazy person that I am, I tested it out, and let me tell you, it
Oh,
doesn't
good. I
matter.
want to know what you
It
found.
doesn't matter if I have the lights pitch black in the house and I have on my blue light blocking glasses. If I'm on Instagram or any kind of social media or on my phone, I will not fall asleep.
But then can I tell you my research to
Go
tie
ahead.
break what they're both saying? They're both right and they're both wrong. The blue light blocking glasses. So I want you to know this is the medical research coming in from people that don't make the device. Because people who make the device, they're going to find statistics and research to say use it. The blue light blockers will work during the daytime when you're working to reduce eye strain and headaches. Okay, and help you focus a little longer, and maybe in some people reduce dry eye. But any kind of light in the house does hit the back of your retina, does go through the hypothalamus, and it absolutely tells the busy brain center, your circadian rhythm, hey, Romy, Zico, woo, wake up. It's time to start thinking, stressing, and obsessing again, right? And then on top of it, like from a spiritual mindfulness place, you could be like, my favorite movies are Star Wars. If I'm watching that at night, I think I'm relaxing and doing something to make me happy. But our conscious brain doesn't know the difference of that's on TV versus I'm in the middle of the fight with the lightsabers and the stormtroopers, right? And same thing on Instagram. So your brain is immersed in it. What you said is absolutely right, Zico. So one, but the other thing that the blue light does that neither the sleep specialist I think I'm hearing, I have to listen to the episodes or this other person said, is any kind of light, but the blue light especially will drop your serotonin and melatonin levels in the evening. And that's really bad. Serotonin is your feel-good hormone that gives you that sense of peace and happiness and gratitude and joy. It is the natural body's antidote to depression and anger. And melatonin is key not only in your sleep-wake cycle, but in metabolism and so many other things, right? So the light will disturb that. And, on top of watching news or whatever will wake you up and give you an adrenaline rush or whatever. So my research says no to that. And we see results. So bottom line, like people do this and they see results. And then what happens? You're sleeping, so you're productive. So the emails that you needed to knock out during the day or the book you're writing or whatever, you're more productive and focused in getting it done. So you don't have to do all this stuff at night.
Exactly. And you know what? I love that and that's what I was kind of going with that work. I found that it's a combination. The blue light blocking glasses and the blue light blocking lights for, as I said, like in the when the sun goes down, the only light I have on in the house are my blue light blockers in the bathroom. I don't turn on any other light because exactly what you're saying, it signals my body it's time to wake up. And then on top of that, at certain time, by about 7:30, all my digital stuff is put away. And in addition, I'm gonna say
Good for
this,
you.
it's because Sabbath starts Friday evening. And
Okay.
I don't get on social media. I don't do anything like that. It's me and the Lord from that 24 hours. And I always say this to people, every Sabbath night, Friday evening, the best sleep I could ever have. Like every Sabbath night. It's like my serotonin level and my melatonin levels are naturally higher. And I just feel so amazing. And I have a question
Yeah.
for you, Doctor, before
Yes.
you address that, because you were talking
Yes.
about the light and you're the expert here, because I've seen research and I've heard people talk about even the light hitting your skin. So not just your eyes, but hitting your skin can lower your melatonin and serotonin levels as well. Is that true by any chance?
Well, no, because it depends the amount of melanin in our skin. You and I are blessed with extra melanin, so there hasn't been conclusive evidence that sunlight hitting the skin can activate certain pathways. But again, you need more exposure to sunlight, pure sunlight, not the artificial light that like I'm sitting in front of right now for this podcast recording. And so that's a little bit different, and for those of us that are blessed with a melanin in our skin, we need more time in
Oh,
the
I apologize.
sunlight,
I didn't ask.
without clothing.
I didn't ask the question properly. So I'm talking about at night, for example. You know how we try to stay away from blue light at night from hitting our retinas?
Yeah.
So but do
Yeah.
the blue, let's say the artificial blue light at night hitting our skin, does that impact our sleep levels at all?
Not typically, no. It's really the brain mechanism from the eyes that goes to the systems in the brain and the limbic system and hypothalamus that's creating your sleep wake cycle or your stress cycle or calm down cycle. So absolutely. You said something so sacred there about the Sabbath, and it's, what we find in the pure intermittent fasting data is there is this level of happiness and peaceful sleep and calm and focus because there's a spiritual element to things, right? So there's something to be said that on Sabbath you are doing digital detox and having more peaceful sleep. It's not just because you're doing digital detox and off of toxic social media. It's also because there's a spiritual component that you feel connected to there, right? So that could be true of anybody that has a spiritual practice that is now saying, I'm going to have that spiritual practice and also do digital detox while I'm doing that. And that spiritual practice could be yoga. It could be fasting for a different religious holiday, whatever that is. And so that brings another sacred element of the connection of the mind, body, and spirit that you've alluded to so many times.
So as I'm sitting here, right, you've dropped so many gems from our audience. And by the way, everyone, I did say I skipped my ad for the day. The information from my sponsor, there's CBDs. The link will be in the description of the podcast. You go and check them out. I've talked about them many times. They'll be fine. This information is something that we can't skip over, and I wanted to really get a lot deeper into it and get some knowledge out there for you, because what you're learning right now can really save your life. Or even though if you're not chronically stressed, it can also help you with your weight management. Or even if you are chronically stressed and you want to get rid of a busy brain, it helps you with your weight management. I mean, how you feel, how you relate with your kids, your loved ones. I mean, just overall improve the quality of your life. So I really want to tie that in. But I want to finish with this. Dr. Romy, you're the expert, and I give it all to you here. So whatever is on your mind that you want to tell my audience, you want to talk about, even if you want to talk about your book, how they can get in touch with you, all that wonderful stuff.
Two things, Zico. Thank you for having me here and for the work you're doing in the world. You're saving more lives than many doctors by giving people a loving place to come and take care of their nutrition and their weight. I just really want to have a real moment. If somebody's listening to this in Zico's community or mine, and you're like, I really want to be fit and do these protocols, but that chronic stress, I'm in that dark place. I want to tell you what I wish somebody had told me when I was sitting in the surgeon's office and realized my life was changing forever, is that your brain is not broken and your mind is not a mess, and hope did not depart your soul. It's a busy brain, and Zico and I are here to be your hope holders and help you to brain shift. You're not alone. And I think I really want to share that with someone who's listening, because when you have a busy brain, it can fool you to think you're all alone. And we're both here to tell you you're not alone. If any of this resonated with you, I'm Dr. Romy on social media, my website. You can take the Busy Brain test for free, and the book, The Busy Brain Cure, the 8-week plan to find focus, tame anxiety, and sleep again, is out now globally, wherever you buy books, including at Barnes & Noble's, Target, Walmart, Amazon, Kindle, Audible. And do me a favor and buy a copy for your doctor so they understand the labs you need to check to be well. And Zico, with that, again, I thank you for what you're doing for your community of giving people such a sacred space to be healthy in mind, body, spirit. And it's just been an honor to share my journey and my research with you. Thank you.
And I'm going to say I'm a very busy person. So if you come to me, I'll just send you to Dr. Romy. How about that? Comment relief, baby. That's all I got. Right? So, but seriously, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been a fantastic conversation. I mean, and it's such a blessing and great because it's towards the beginning of the year when so much stress is going on, and a lot of people are trying to get healthier, lose weight, and change their lives, and that in itself is a stress. So your book is going to be out, and have these conversations is going to be fantastic. And of course, I'm going to make sure that the show notes are going to be zicohealth.com/busybrain. That's what I was going with. zicohealth.com/busybrain. You click on it, you get access to all her wonderful information and learn more about the work that she has done and continues to do for thousands and thousands of people. The show notes can be in the description of the podcast, of course, right? So if you're watching on YouTube, you're on Apple, Spotify, wherever, click on the show notes and be able to access her, Dr. Romy's information as well. So thank you for being here. Everyone, thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. We're out for the day, fam.